Hey everyone, welcome back to another deck talk with Nick Webster here at Decks and Docks in North Kingstown, Rhode Island. I'm here with Hayward Gatch. We're here to learn a little bit about him and see if we can figure out our next project and get this rolling.
You know, I'm very happy to be here. It's great to actually get a behind-the-scenes look at the background of Decks and Docks. You know,
Yeah.
gives us a little bit of shelter from that New England winter.
It sure is. That's why we're in here today in the warehouse and not out there, on our job site. But, do what we have to do.
Absolutely.
So, Hayward, what got you into this business? What made you, want to be one of the best builders in the area here?
So I guess you could say you can take it back to the early 1970s. Now, it might surprise you to find out that I'm not from the 1970s. However, my father is. So he was going to architecture school at the Rhode Island School of Design. He dropped out or failed out, depending on who you ask.
Ah, yes.
And so he had to figure out what to do from there. He found himself landing in Boston, where he was sort of a handyman to various slumlords in the area. Got an appreciation for the manual arts. Eventually, he pivoted back down to the place that we're all from, the sort of southern Rhode Island area.
Absolutely.
Specifically Watch Hill, where there's a lot of architectural legacy there that he grew up around and spent a lot of time observing. So eventually he figured out, well, I don't need a fancy piece of paper to draw on a normal piece of paper. So he's just drawing houses all the time, what he sees,
Oh, wow.
memorizing details, looking at old school, before the days of Photoshop or stock photos, you would have books full of architectural details that you would actually photocopy, cut out, splice together,
Yeah, wow.
literal old school Photoshop.
That's really cool.
And then the actual drawing that you would do with a real French curve, with real scale rulers, all that kind of stuff. So I grew up on a construction site in Watch Hill that anyone from the area would recognize. It's an archway just up top from the carousel. So it's one of the largest,
Okay,
or
yeah.
not largest, the oldest, free spinning carousels, something to that effect. It's one of the oldest carousels in the country. So just up the way of that, you'll see this house where there's an archway you can see straight through to the Watch Hill Lighthouse. And that was an intentional design choice. What was also an intentional design choice is most people confuse that for the house itself, whereas that's actually the gatehouse. The house is intentionally obscured behind that and some landscaping. But that was my playground growing up.
Sounds fun.
It very much was. So I have photos of me from the early 90s running around in clothes that look like they're from the mid 80s, all the crazy colors and stuff.
Like we all did.
Yeah, so that was where I learned what was possible with materials, and it started to inform a lot of my aesthetic tastes. Now, his design style is not for everybody, but within his field and within his style, he was pretty much at the top of his craft, despite the fact he never made the digital jump.
Yeah.
So his last job wrapped up in like 2018, and he was still drawing stuff by hand while he had someone next to him translating it into digital files for rendering and stuff.
Wow, that's really cool.
So that's sort of the context in which I grew up in. We also spent a lot of time doing sort of adventure-related stuff. He very much has sort of a I grew up in the 50s type of sense of adventure. The world was still small. We didn't have GPS and cell phones yet. We can adventure. And so how that manifested in Rust Belt, New England, was to go through abandoned buildings, see all the old architecture, see how it's falling down, caving in. And part of that gave some context for how I'm so good at diagnosing problems in houses.
I think we've all done a little of that around here.
You can't not. The whole place is disintegrating all of the time. So I eventually went to school for graphic design, and the reason I did that is because I had the perhaps idiotic misapprehension that a graphic designer is someone who designs graphics for video games, right? That's not what it is. I figured that out about year one, and I was like, oh, I can make branding. That's fine. I'll do that for a little bit. But I always was drawn toward the manual arts. So I was building stuff as a kid quite a bit.
Absolutely.
I built like a boat one time that I took up and down the river
that's
out of some
exceptional.
shipping pallets. I built forts like a lot of kids did before the advent of the iPhone. Mine was 3 levels tall and fully electrified.
Oh, wow.
So that was pretty cool. And so for a young kid, that sense of tactile accomplishment is something not a lot of fields offer. Construction does.
It's true. It's true.
And so I also spent a lot of time studying history, social trends, just like how societies evolve or devolve over time. And looking at our general context, it seemed readily apparent to me that there is a posture that most industries are taking where they're trying to cut out as much of their workforce as possible as a means of delivering for their shareholders. Of course, the fiduciary responsibility.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And it was hard enough in times that was less of a concern with graphic design, because most people that are graphic designers, they're going to design like a menu for a restaurant. That restaurant has like an SBA loan. They're already underwater anyways. Like, it's hard to convince them to pay $500, $1,000 to lay out a bunch of text, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I got through without student loans, which is pretty rare. I had a lot of scholarships and I saved up a ton. So that worked for
good.
me. But like, a lot of people in my field were really struggling because it was hard to convince people of that value unless you could get hooked up with a corporation, like making a logo with a pelican or the Pink Panther or something.
Yeah.
You know, unless you can get those kind of stable work environments where there's a consistent need for branding and material, it's tough. And then this
Agreed.
big old AI thing came along, and that restaurant owner was like, why would I ever do anything other than just type something into a computer and get something that's just good enough?
It just generates it for you.
Because
you know.
most people are not going to say, oh, well, this applies the rule of thirds and all of these Gestalt principles, and look at their color balancing. Most people don't care.
Yeah.
So I got out early, and I pivoted to something that I thought made more sense. Now, my wife went to school for dental hygiene. I helped put her through school for that, because that's another one of those things where, you know, don't look too closely at my teeth, but some people actually care about theirs and understand their importance. And so that was a secure field. And she, in order to short circuit the sort of recruiting pipeline situation, decided she was going to be a temp. And so she got brought to offices all over the state and
wow.
basically got to interview those offices, test drive those offices before showing up and say, please hire me full time, and then lock into a contract.
She lucked out on that one.
Right. And so now she has her pick of the litter for all the different places to go.
Yeah.
But then this big old sniffle happened. All of a sudden, people were getting real sick and real
boy.
scared.
Yeah.
And so that was a really big seismic shift, not only in the building industry, but in all the industries.
Yeah, you're
People,
correct.
myself included, avoid dental care in good times, right? So when we have this like mystery sickness that like who knows what it's going to do, we're like, I'm not going to the dentist. What are you kidding? So she was laid off immediately.
Oh, wow.
And we had just had our first kid. So she had unemployment, but that is a reduced income, of course. And we were under the impression that children will only get more expensive with time.
They sure do.
They sure do. And then we had another one. So we had to come up with an alternate plan. During that time, I got relatively well established as a handyman, and my wife became more interested in being with the kids, because spending time with the little bundles of joy that love you unconditionally is a little bit more appealing than digging around in strangers' mouths. I know that might seem shocking, but so she was like, hey, can I do this? I'm like, yeah, sure. All right, I'll go make a business.
Yeah.
So I had to come out of the shadows as far as construction goes,
Yeah.
instead of being like the handyman for the slumlords like my father. Apple does not.
Forcing of your hand almost.
A little bit, you know. Our lives are largely dictated by the economic realities that we live within. We must learn to swim in the ocean we're thrown into. And so the bills do not stop, and I have a very hard time convincing the tax assessor to accept potatoes and carrots as payment. So,
Imagine that. That'd be nice.
in order to make those things work, I had to get creative and spin up something very quickly. So the handyman thing started to bring on more people. I started to get some of my friends, because they were all in a similar boat, having trouble finding work in an ever-decaying economic situation for people in my generation. So a lot of us are turning to the manual arts. I needed extra hands. We were making something work.
Yeah.
Eventually, we start doing work for a company called North Sales, and they're a sail manufacturer. And so we built their sewing tables. I'm talking 10,000 square foot sewing tables.
Wow.
They asked if I could, and I said yes. Mercifully, they did not ask if I knew how, because that answer would have been no. And that posture, that sort of shameless audacity of just being able to go for something. Can I do it? Absolutely. I know I can, because I'm going to bring effort and interest to the table.
I'm the same way.
Most of what we do is not rocket science, right? So if you genuinely care, you can figure it out.
100%.
So I learned how to build a 10,000 square foot sewing table. A couple months later, I learned how to demolish their old one because they were moving facilities. And that got us a huge leg up, because part of the conditions I negotiated were, you need to buy me all the tools to do this. And they did, because what do they care?
Yeah.
They were going to rent them otherwise, so they just bought them for the
Exactly.
same price and just gave them to me.
Might as well.
Because a sail manufacturer does not need a nail gun. And so that really helped give us a jump.
Yeah.
From there, I still was a little bit worried about going through all the official process for like licensure and all that kind of stuff. I'm still in kind of like pseudo handyman territory. And I start approaching other contractors around. I'm like, hey, can I work for you? Like, refine my skills, that kind of thing. We start working for a local builder. It ends up being kind of a tough fit because our value sets weren't quite right. It's no secret to anyone that knows me, I'm a colossal weirdo. And so as a result of that, I was not an easy fit for the construction world, which in a lot of ways is still largely set in its traditional ways of being. So you have this goofy long-haired goober show up who has a bunch of weird friends who are really excited to do what they do, but they don't quite look the part.
Yeah.
So eventually I start my own business, and we're thinking, well, what do we call it? I can't think of what to call it. So it's This and This Brothers, This and This and Sons. Mike Malkin, when I was telling this the other day, said it's This and This and Daughters.
Yeah.
Yes, Mike, we hear you. But like, I didn't have like a construction company that had name recognition.
Yeah.
I didn't have this like multi-generational company, because my father was always kind of like pseudo off-grid anyways with his drawing.
Absolutely.
So I had to do something that was recognizable. And I had to do something that conveyed our approach to business that made us different. Now, I have this tattoo on my hand that says "Be nice," and that's the reminder my wife gave me to not be a curmudgeonly grouch. You know, I am from New England. We tend to be very frigid people. Verbal jousting and sniping remarks are part of our culture.
Sarcasm.
Right. And my wife wanted me to be friendlier, more pleasant to be around. I can't imagine why. And after like months of like coaching me and like trying to get me to do it, she's like, what do I have to do, tattoo it on your hand? I'm like, absolutely, go for it. She's like, no, it was a joke. I'm like, no, go for it. And so and that's how it's on my hand to this day. So when it came time to the business, I'm like, what if we call it like Be Nice? And then I was like, okay, well, the company I just quit was like home services. So I can't do that because it'll be derivative. My stepfather's company is home improvement, so I can't use that because, again, derivative. I'm like, home solutions is vague enough that I can be whatever I want to be.
You're right.
So I have my strategic ambiguity while also allowing me to be very broad. So we became Be Nice Home Solutions. My more computer literate brother helped handle the background of it, as well as a little bit of the funding. He cobbled together what little we had to make something work.
Excellent.
But we did not have a small business loan. We did not have a large reservoir of capital to draw from. So how do we gain traction, gain employees beyond just like the couple of guys that we have that all look like versions of me?
Yeah.
So how do we get like real people to work for us? Because if we want to be with the big boys, we have to have
absolutely.
like people that know how to do something. And so we brought on our first employee, who quite literally, we hired him because he was a mechanic, he had a beard, and he smoked cigarettes. I'm like, you look like a construction
you fits the
worker.
bill pretty well.
I'm like, man, this is great. You look like you do this. And the thing with mechanics is, especially in this area, probably around the country, a lot of technical schools operate sort of as diploma mills. You know, you go there, you pay a lot of money, you get your degree, and you're getting $25 an hour at the upper end as a mechanic with like a real valuable skill.
Absolutely.
So market's flooded. So a lot of these guys, right? I can't convince like a really good carpenter to work for a no-name company. But I can absolutely convince a mechanic to take a pay raise and come learn carpentry, because if you know how to fix a car, most of the stuff's like, they're translatable skills. If you have the attention to detail to reassemble an engine, not have it explode, you can probably frame a wall.
It's true.
And so that was how we approached it. We started hiring mechanics.
Oh, wow.
And so half of our team are mechanics.
Different tactic.
It was a really different tactic, and it was all part of our sort of weird strategy to try to gain traction and to cultivate what was initially the illusion of professionalism and eventually started to become actual professionalism. At least that's what I like to tell myself. And so we started getting more and more mechanics that were working for us. Now we have a team of mechanics for when if our vehicles break down, I'm not paying a dealership and all that markup for that guy to get basically the same amount of money. I'm paying him directly.
It's actually a really good idea.
It worked great. Then the next step, we're like, well, we need some kind of vehicles, right? Like we're driving like sedans, and I'm driving a Nissan D21, which is like, if you can think of the early 90s single cab pickup truck that's like
exactly
significantly smaller than this pallet of OC. I'm driving that as like, I'm trying to be like a serious construction worker. And it's like, guys over here driving like Rams and F-150s and stuff, we couldn't afford those. But we could afford with the Dodge Dakotas, which is like the baby cousin of the Ram, which crazy American engineers plopped a Ram engine into a little truck.
They did back then.
And so I started buying blue Dodge Dakotas for between like literally $1,000 and like the high end was like $35.
Yeah.
So I start getting these trucks. They're all matching. We're in New England. Every truck's rusting. It doesn't really matter that much. Like bonus points if it's not rusting, but like it's going to rust anyways.
You're not going to find one like that.
So I buy a $300 vinyl cutter from Amazon, use those graphic design skills I paid so much for, and started cranking out decals and pop them on the side of these junker trucks.
Oh, wow.
I roll up with 6 of these things. They think it's a fleet. And these things were so cheap that I bought them and gave them to my guys. It's like, here's a truck.
Yeah, wow.
How many construction startups can give people trucks?
Almost none.
Well,
very rare.
See, a lot of them can, but they don't think to give them junkers, and they don't have a team of mechanics, so it doesn't make sense. But now I have parts commonality, and I have a fleet. So that really helped.
And mechanics everywhere.
And mechanics everywhere. And they're driving around mobile billboards for me.
Yeah.
And the other thing we noticed a lot was, as I worked for other companies, it was so common to have to search for a tool.
Yeah.
Oh, where's, the track saw? It's at another job site. Oh, I got to go get it. Burning time, burning money. And when I was working for someone, it wasn't my problem particularly, but it still annoyed me. The inefficiency was frustrating. So I knew when I wanted to start a company, I wanted to lean really hard in making sure that, the tools, the ability to produce was in all my crew's hands.
Yeah.
That also allowed them to, if they wanted to, take on side work. Because some of my guys were part-time. They wanted a little bit of work-life balance.
Yeah.
And that's another thing our crew offered, was that work-life balance. So we had these sort of weird, twisted benefits that weren't like, it's not a 401k, but like, I'm going to buy you all your tools. I'm going to give you a truck. Like, this is what I got.
But that's a lot to a carpenter and
we'll
a builder.
Work somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, we'll work toward it, man, but this is what we're doing now.
Yeah.
And so we had a lot of folks that bought in really early.
Yeah.
And when it came time to just trying to figure out how to get people to notice us beyond the trucks, I joined every single Facebook page within 50 miles and spent like days and weeks on Facebook looking at construction, handyman, window, deck, whatever. Any keyword like that, I liked and commented on it. And eventually the algorithm that wants to drive my engagement, it wants to keep me addicted. That's what it's for.
Yeah, of course.
Will drive me those keywords. And so I see these posts when they're like a minute old.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm commenting on these things like a madman.
Yeah.
And I'm getting people reaching out to me because they see it. And I'm even getting folks reaching out to me saying, I see your name everywhere. A lot of people are talking about you.
Yeah.
And I have a commitment to honesty. So I'm like, that's me. And they're like, no, it's a lot of people. I'm like, no, I promise it's me. And they'd be like, no, come on, come work for me. And so I start getting traction.
Good.
And we're diagnosing house problems. We're like, in some cases, saving people's collapsing houses. We're doing a lot of work in sort of low-income areas because that's who will take a chance on us.
Yeah, of course.
And every step of the way, we're trying to get into better and better markets. And eventually, we make our way down to Westerly, down to Watch Hill, Charleston. And that really helped because it gave us consistent, high-quality work for clients that didn't necessarily duck our phone calls when it was time to pay. And so that's really helpful. I also have a generally pessimistic view about social trajectory in general. So we will have boom and bust cycles. Like, that's a known fact, regardless of whatever your political beliefs are. It's a thing that economics does.
Yeah.
And so if I'm getting work now, I don't know if it's a boom, but like, I'm getting work now. I need to plan for the possibility that those folks inland are going to be deferring work. So I need to get to the areas that aren't going to do that.
Yeah.
So those folks make money no matter what's happening most of the time, and they still have houses that are aging in the New England environment.
Of course.
So I wanted to become the go-to guy for that. That was tough, but we tried to make it work.
Yeah.
And I started to do decks here and there because they're relatively straightforward framing-wise, okay? Like, the ledger is a potential locus for rot. You can find a lot of problems there.
Yeah.
But most of the frame you can see most of the time. So as far as like scheduling, not getting completely blown out with budgets, that was a little easier direction to go. So we start building just PT on PT, your basic backyard decks.
Yeah.
And we're like, man, these go together really fast. I like this a lot.
Yeah.
And so we start doing them here and there. We did one in Watch Hill that was just absolutely tremendous. It was basically a big break for us. The deck boards were all Garapa. All the railings were custom-made Alaskan yellow cedar.
Oh, wow.
And this was the start of our sort of custom wooden deck era.
Yeah.
So we now do a lot with synthetics. We now do a lot with aluminum stuff. We do a lot, and we just took the steel railing class with Fortress yesterday.
We did.
So we're playing catch-up like crazy on this stuff because custom wood fabrication is our background. And you'll still see that in our portfolio to this day. But, like, I needed to be able to find decks now all over the place that could support that degree of work. Now, I'm from Southern Rhode Island, and if no one knows who is also in Southern Rhode Island, it's Kevin from Raven Builders.
It sure is.
I'm not going to be able to compete with that guy. Like, it's not happening. So how do I be an artisan deck builder with this guy literally 15 minutes from my house? Well, I can't do it here.
Yeah.
So where can I do it? And I'm like, wow, no one wants to go to Block Island. No one wants to do it. It's a pain in the butt. You go on the ferry. You take 30 minutes to drive there from most of Rhode Island. It's an hour-long boat ride. Everyone's puking half the year. And the rest of the year, you're just sweating.
Yeah.
It's not a pleasant ride. We love you interstate.
Get choppy out there, yeah.
We love you interstate navigation, but we speak the truth.
Yeah.
And so you get there. You have to have trucks there, or you have to call ahead in order to get your truck on back and forth. You're paying out the nose, or you're flying. And so I'm like, all right, my crew's some of the hardest, most neurodivergent goofballs I know that are willing to put up with a lot of adversity, myself included, in order to make things work. Because we all have this goal of being able to feed our children and feed our families.
Yeah.
So we are like, all right, the island's where it's going to be, because we can get work there. There are a lot of big production builders there that are taking up that stuff, but a lot of the old guys are dying off or not taking that kind of work anymore. Yeah. So I commented on a Facebook post for a garden, literally making a cedar garden.
Yeah.
And that morphed into, well, we're actually going to put off the garden and you're going to redo the entire interior of my first floor. It's like, oh, sweet. So that was a great build. And that allowed us to actually have our vehicles left on Block Island. Because remember that fleet, I split it in half. So we have 3 island trucks that are driving around that island 365 days a year, basically, because we have folks living out there too.
Yeah.
And so we get this job. We start meeting locals, making connections. That helps a ton.
Absolutely.
I see on the Facebook page for Block Island, I see some incredible work by one of the contractors out there, and I'm like, oh man, I got to meet this guy. So this is where I do my weird internet behavior.
Yeah.
And I click on the profile. I'm like, all right, that's what he looks like. I'm going to see him on the ferry. I just like walk up to him like, hey, how you doing? We start getting to talking, and this is like, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right?
It's true.
Like, I'm just gonna walk up to this guy who doesn't know me from Adam
all
and
you
start
have to
talking to him. And I worked for that guy for like over a year straight, and the only reason we aren't working for him is because he got stuck in permit hell. So that's,
Yeah, that can happen for
So
sure.
we'll be starting up with him again sometime in April for another deck job there.
Excellent.
But this guy gave me deck jobs that I never could have dreamed of getting.
Yeah.
I was able to borrow the credibility of the big guys. And so the first project we're brought on, we're laying dark gray Akoya over a newly framed PT deck on a house that's getting an addition.
Yeah.
The house is on piers. And before we lay the deck boards, we do our pre-construction checks. We're all a bunch of folks that are really into structures, really into like how things work, how things don't work, how things break. And so my R&D guy, Justin, puts a Simpson lag into the ledger. It goes through the ledger and then just free spins. We're like, this is a problem.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, hold on, guys. Before we add several tons worth of Akoya to this, let's take a breather. We start digging, and we find that the entire sill of the house, mind you, it's on piers, is rotted out to a degree so severe that they had to re-engineer the entire house.
Wow.
I thought I was going to get fired because I've been fired from jobs before for finding problems. Like, people are like, this is too much, don't show this to me, you're fired. Like, I've had that happen. And so I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna get fired.
Yeah,
I just found like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of problems in a structure, and what did I get but a thank you? I was like, oh, this place is different.
Yeah.
This place is real different.
That's reassuring. Like, hey, we might have found our home here.
They're like, oh my God, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So we get put off on that project for a little bit while they re-engineer the whole building.
Of course.
And these guys find alternate projects for us. So we built a deck from the ground up for one of the contractors out there as one of the main production builders. And this was like kind of new for us. We had done a lot of layovers.
Yeah.
Like, I know how framing works, right? But this was like, can we really do this? And turns out the answer is yes, because it's still standing.
Like, yeah.
But we got a chance to build something from the ground up, just brand new construction house, piers on the ground, figure the rest out.
Yeah.
Sweet. I get to play with lasers. I get to start refining all the processes that I only ever just imagined in my head.
Absolutely.
And I get this thing together with my team. And we're like, guys, we really did it. And it was fast.
Yeah.
And, this was before we started employing breaker boards. So we had sort of random staggers throughout the field. We're using TimberTech Harvest Collection Slate Gray, which is this production builder's absolute favorite thing. He uses it on everything.
Oh, really? It's very popular. That's a very popular one.
We tried to convince him to use Coastline here and there, and he has a few times. And we've got some great builds coming up. But so we build this thing, put it together, but he's like, hey, we have the railing guys coming in, because he's already got railing guys. He's an established builder.
Yeah, of course.
And so I'm like, all right. So I turned back to the GC who I was working for. It's like layers of subs. And I was like, well, what's next? And he's like, I got a mahogany deck on the south side of the island where it's a total tear off, total rebuild. I'm like, sweet. And this is the first time we got to do design.
Good.
So anyone that sees my profile will see fairly prominently featured here and there this sort of like herringbone weave into a corner. I post it all the time.
Yeah.
And when I worked with wood predominantly, one of our signature details, and other people do it obviously, but it's one of the things that we make a point to do. Where we had those random staggers, when we did those, we would intentionally match the spacing of the rest of the field in the other direction to make that gap look intentional, and we'd hit it with a router. So that creates a situation where that gap is always there, it's ventilating, instead of tight butting it, and then it will shrink eventually after it's trapped a whole ton of water and rotted a little bit. It will start to shrink, and that will look like a mistake. I wanted to make it look intentional. That 90-degree corner had a miter, and every single one of those miters opened up. I'm not having that on my project.
Yeah, exactly.
So I did a herringbone. And I didn't even know what it was called at that point, despite the fact that I knew what it was called in textiles, but I didn't know we also used that in construction. So I called it a weave. I was like, yeah, man, we're gonna do a weave. And I'm probably the only carpenter who whips up their concepts on Adobe Illustrator.
Yeah.
because I still have all these graphics things stuck in my head. I've got
Yeah.
the same laptop I've had since 2011. And so this thing, we show them. I'm like, hey, I want to do this. I know it's different, but let's try it. We also had a double picture frame around the entire thing that carried that weave detail. So
Yeah.
even into the areas where it was just the field, we still had a couple layers of that to carry that motif. And here's where we got a little risky. And I told them it's a risk. We did it on the stairs. Now,
Oh,
with
wow.
wood,
Yeah.
that's a risk. You know, especially something like mahogany, that can open up. So we got the Ipe clips. We all had hidden clip decking boards. We pretty much only ever do hidden clips. We really don't like piercing wood whenever we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we just put those Ipe clips just all directions around them to like really hold it
Yeah.
in place so we could resist that however possible. And so we have this stair detail like nothing I'd ever seen before or since, where you have your interior one that's quite small, then you have a little block, and then that goes out to that, and then it goes out, and it's a cool detail.
Yeah,
Then we rebuilt all the rails out of mahogany as well, put them all together, paint them up all nice, build all these custom jigs. This is all like new stuff for us.
Yeah.
But like that gave us an opportunity to like try those things out. We started making jigs. Our R&D guy, he has a 3D printer at home. He's 3D printing jigs based off of his measurements.
Oh, wow.
We started like leaning in hard to this. Our next deck was all cedar, which sounds crazy to like anyone that doesn't live on Block Island because you look at it and it scratches. But we had to build like full, large decks out of cedar.
Yeah.
And we had a rooftop one where, again, I'm used to finding things now, and I'm used to not getting in trouble, but that my heart still sunk a little bit because I'm over like $100,000 at least kitchen,
Yeah.
like on the beach of Block Island. I'm on this balcony, and I'm doing again my pre-construction checks. Right, there's a custom fabricated stainless steel rail that's sitting on the sleepers. And so it's sitting just hard on the sleepers. I'm like, okay, well, I tape my joist. So I'm going to take all this stuff off and tape everything. And while I'm doing that, I pull out a stainless steel screw. And I'm like, oh,
Oh, no.
that's longer than it should be.
Yeah, right. Uh-oh.
And so it's things like that that help inform the sort of healthy anxiety we have in construction, especially when working with multiple trades.
Yeah.
Like mistakes happen.
They do.
That screw, I mean, I exaggerated for the cameras, right? But like that screw was like 1.5 inches longer than like all the other screws.
Yeah.
But that's enough to pierce the EPDM beneath it
Yeah,
and make a hole in that
It's
kitchen.
a large problem and, growing over time.
And yeah, I mean, ugh. And so we're putting down this cedar deck once we get everything together. And because all of the railing is mounted down to the floor, we had to custom cut little slots in our deck boards, route out around them for ventilation, and then slide that piece back in and sand it till it's smooth. So basically it looks
Yeah.
as if it were just dropped through, despite the fact that there's a huge bracket underneath.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we were able to create that illusion. We also developed a little jig, which is still in the patenting process. So stay tuned for that.
That'll be fun.
But specifically for that type of application, it was tremendously useful and speeded us up so much.
Nice. Excellent.
And all this kind of stuff, it gains us traction. It gains us
does.
notice. So we're basically like the go-to deck builder on Block Island. And we were able to turn that social capital into building the first 2 OC lumber decks on Block Island.
Yeah.
So our first one, I don't even know if you folks were officially open at that point. We were ordering from you.
Kind of, a little bit.
Because like Kevin sends me, I shouldn't say Kevin sends me. I saw something Kevin posted. I'm like, Kevin, what's this black lumber you've got? What is that?
Yeah.
And so he sends me the technical data on it. And I'm like, oh, well, this is how we build now.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, are you kidding? So I told the guy, I told the GC, tell the homeowner, this is a balcony. These are sleepers. It's going to be wet forever there. It's going to be in shade forever there.
Yeah.
I am not comfortable putting my screws into something that's like this thick.
Yeah.
It's going to rot. I'm putting Ipe on this, and it's good Ipe.
Yeah.
So even though that does eventually rot,
Yeah.
I want the frame to outlast whatever I'm putting on top of it, ideally.
100%
I mean,
true.
ideally, they both last forever, right?
Yeah.
And that was sort of our next pivot beyond that. Our second OC lumber deck was full OC.
Yeah.
So top to bottom, everything there, the Owens Corning framing, Owens Corning decking, was all that gray color.
Yeah.
And my R&D guy was joking, man, this looks like an untextured CAD render. Like, it's just all perfectly the same color. And that led us into a challenge. You might remember this, of course, because I ordered gray posts thinking that it's all the same gray.
Yeah.
Like, it's an assumption, right? Like, gray, must be gray. And it was gray,
Yeah.
but it was a different gray.
Yeah, because of the, they blend the colors of a couple of grays to,
And,
make
like,
it.
had I known that, like, but I didn't. It was new to me, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
I'm learning. These are the mistakes I make along the way.
Absolutely.
And so, because I'm from that custom wood fabrication background, my railing style looks like it was made out of like dimensional lumber,
Yeah.
but out of OC. So how do I make a 4x4 that's the same color as everything else?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I run it through a table saw like a crazy person, obviously. And so
That was a lot of work for you.
it was a lot of work for us, but the result was very convincing.
Yeah.
Like, we got better at it over time. We
Yeah,
burned
yeah.
a couple of them, but we created these 4x4s out of 45 2x4s, screwed them all together, and we asked OC, like, hey, what glue works for this stuff because of the application? And they're like, oh, we don't know. And I was like, okay, no worries. Like, you're a rep. Why would you know this like niche technical detail? Go ask your development team. They'll know surely. And I hear back, and they're like, no, we don't know. And so I tell my R&D guy, do your thing, find
Yeah.
something. He finds an aerospace grade adhesive made by 3M,
Yeah, wow.
and he custom 3D prints a mixer tip because the ones would take too long to get to us to fit on that gun to get that 10-to-1 ratio. This stuff, when it bonds to HDPE, has a shear strength of 1,100 pounds per square inch.
Wow.
When I say aerospace grade, I mean it's like shooting stuff into space.
Yeah.
You can't necessarily just blast screws through the side of like a Falcon 9 or whatever. Like, there are instances in which you need glue, you
Yeah.
need adhesives. So we are just playing around with this thing. We're sticking rail toppers on top of the frame
Yeah.
just to see what happens. It's still there.
That's pretty
So
cool.
that's pretty
really
cool, right?
Yeah.
Like, who would have known that if we don't have these crazy weirdos with backgrounds in engineering?
New product, innovative ways to take the next step to,
Absolutely.
make your project stand out and be better than the next,
Yeah, we always try to push things to the next level. I asked, like, where are the post bases? And they said, we don't have them. So I took little rips of my scraps in a little quarter rounds, basically, and made those.
Yeah.
I made post caps.
Yeah.
The little Simpson 6x6 base that is underneath my triple beam that, has a little gap on either side.
Yeah.
I took their fascia stock and, ripped them into triangles and made this continuous little surface.
Yeah.
Little
All
details
those
like that.
minute details.
Yeah, dude.
That's really exceptional.
And, like, this is the kind of stuff that we try to bring to the table. Like,
Yeah.
just kind of weird stuff that really punches up the result of the project.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's fun. That's really great. Well, Hayward, really appreciate that story. That was really great from your background and where you came from and, just details on, how you got to where you are right now. And so, next question is, how'd you find us? How'd you find Decks and Docks originally? And, talking about the Owens Corning product and, how did you find your way to us and, using that?
Yeah, so unsurprisingly, it would be Kevin Shookhead again, just, like the local knower of deck things.
Yeah.
So, coming from that question of like, what is this black stuff you're building with? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
Because, I'm looking at it. It looks like it has like the texture of a TimberTech board because it's got kind of that same little cathedral grain
Yeah.
thing going on. And I'm like, I got to know more about this stuff. And I asked him where to get it. And he's like, he said, he can get it because he's got like a whole yard of it behind
Yeah,
his
of course.
house. But he also said Decks and Docks is coming to Rhode Island. And I'm like, Decks and Docks? Like, yeah, Rhode Island's got lots of decks and lots of docks,
Yeah.
100%. Like, hard agree. He explained to me that it was a company that specialized in decks and docks.
Decking and docking.
So, because those are basically cousin industries in a lot of ways. Like, there's a lot of similarity in the construction.
Yeah, of course.
A lot of similarity in, like, the design philosophy. And so I was really excited to hear about this. And he said that you folks weren't technically open yet, but you also wouldn't be mad if we threw some money at you. So we had this sort of golden opportunity where I have this build happening on the island, that balcony, and I needed something, anything. And unlike the second build, it didn't matter what color it was.
Yeah.
Obviously, the black stuff is like one of the most iconic ones because it's the most
Absolutely.
visually striking.
Mhm.
But it comes in a huge range of colors, and I
sure
love
does.
that because I hate seeing painted PT. It makes me so
Yeah.
sad. Because if I see painted PT, what I'm actually seeing is rotting PT.
Usually, that's how it goes.
Yeah.
To hide the defects.
Absolutely. So that was like a window into what was possible in the future of deck building. So because I come from a little bit of an engineering background, that's in the sort of long form of the story we don't have time for.
Yeah.
I needed to know more about this stuff. I needed to know what was possible. I have a little bit of a background in environmental stuff as well. You know, one can argue back and forth about whether or not plastic is better or worse than trees, but what I know as a byproduct of my interest in that stuff is the harvesting pressure that's happening as building is increasing and increasing and increasing.
Agreed.
The pine forests that they use to make PT are getting harvested sooner and sooner, faster and faster. That means the average age of the tree is dropping.
Yeah.
That means the product is more and more inferior every single time you use it.
And structurally getting weaker, and
Absolutely.
longevity is nowhere near what it used to be even 10 or 15 years ago.
My professional integrity dictates that I have to explore
Yeah.
other options.
Absolutely.
Like, full disclosure, my house has a PT deck, but that's because it's built out of other people's decks that I disassembled and it was free. Like, if I am in a position to pay for a deck, especially if I'm putting synthetic deck boards that are going to last in some form for like 10,000 years, why would I ever put something that's starting to disintegrate and, never mind that, twisting, warping, and splitting days after I put it in place?
It's true.
It's to me, it is inexcusable from a structural perspective. I get people's financial thing. Like, I get it. Structurally speaking, it is inexcusable in my mind to use that with the type of work that I try to do. And so to my clients, I'm like, man, I can't recommend that you do this. Like, even if it's Ipe still lasts a long time. And, we often joke that there's going to be a cottage industry coming down in the next, 15 years or so of people stripping off the deck boards that still look basically the same, and the frame is goo.
Yeah, and that's, it's like quality products make quality results. And if you put a 50-year deck board on top of a 15-year frame, in reality, you're kind of just throwing away the 50-year deck board, because it's not like it's going to come up the best, and so putting a great frame like Owens Corning or Fortress framing, metal framing, there's opportunities there to have very low maintenance and never have to worry about that deck almost ever again, unless you would like to change colors or something of the sort, or a different style of railing. But overall, there's the opportunities there are endless and great for you and me as two different companies.
As professionals in our field, it is incumbent upon us to familiarize ourselves with those opportunities. Like, even content creators are doing this. Like, I'm doing it to the degree that I can. Like, I have a relatively small audience, but like, I still to this day send that video of Gordon, the wood bully, just beating the stuffing out of an OC stringer, and then I'm speaking with exaggeration, flicking a PT stringer and the thing split off. Like, that type of educational content, edutainment, I think is what they call it, educational entertainment. And so to see that kind of stuff, like I told him the other day, I was like, I am still sending this video to people. Can you make it easier to find? He reposted it, and it gets like millions of views because people want to know about this stuff. Like, yeah, he's theatrical and entertaining, but like, this is real information. And then like with Fortress coming to the table, like, I mean, they've been around obviously, but like coming to the table that I sit at, this is super exciting. The fact that you folks have this on the ground right now, like before you even had the masterclass going.
It's true.
That speaks to the fact that you folks are planning things out. Like, one of the reasons that I use you as my go-to supplier for building supplies is because I will like call you people, sometimes at very inopportune times, and be like, hey, when can I get this out to the literal island that I'm on? You're like, it'll be there tomorrow. Or sometimes it'll be there this afternoon. Yeah. And that, being able to rely on that as a crutch for my own like unprofessionalism is such a huge win. Yeah. And I've become something of sort of a unofficial cheerleader for decks and docks. I'm constantly stealing your pencils. I'm constantly stealing the bags. I'll keep stealing them. And, you know, like, I have the stickers, they're on all of our trucks. I am telling builders about you folks all the time because, you know, to the degree that I have influence within my space, in the same way my wife was sort of like the person that worked all over the place, I'm the deck guy for hire.
Yeah.
So I'm working for GCs all over the place. And I'm like, hey, this is who I buy from.
Yeah.
Like, one of the people that I do drafting work for, because our company actually farms out our drafting and design services for other folks because not a lot of people want to do it.
It's true.
And that's fine. So, like, one of the guys that we farm this out to, I was like, hey, you're building a deck coming up? Go here. He sends me a text the next day saying, like, you folks were sitting down with him and doing consultations and education. Like, what other vendor is going to take the time of day to do that?
Yeah.
He literally says, like, you know, these people are my go-to in perpetuity.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I sent that up the flagpole to Steve, and he's like, discount on your next order. And I'm like, oh man, if I had money and bought things, this would be fantastic.
Well,
but like, this is a reflection of my enthusiasm for your presence in this space.
Yeah. Like,
I will send you folks text messages at like 10 p.m. about ideas because I'm over here doing overnight deck shifts because I'm just that guy. Like, part of our reputation is like the indestructible, unstoppable crew. Like, I'm on an all-nighter right now.
I know you
framing
are.
up a whole deck. And that's just like, we're the people that our clients and our GCs call, like, when their back's against the wall timing.
Yeah.
I have a big crew and we're really nimble.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, man, we'll get it done for you.
We'll get it done,
like, that's a huge edge.
Yeah.
And having you folks in the back pocket with those super rapid spin-up times, boy, is that helpful.
Yeah, we like to try to have that same concept, you know, as for customer service and taking care of, you know, you, because you're bringing us business, and where, you know, we're trying to help you out and make sure that your product is, you know, exceptional, make sure your clients have a great end product, and, you know, it's for the future for us.
And one of the fantastic things with the fact that you are, again, decks and docks, this is a coastal area.
Yep.
Docks are constantly getting annihilated by things, including one of my clients' docks.
Absolutely.
Guess who I call up? I call up Nick at Decks and Docks. I'm like, hey, man, do you have a bubbler?
Yeah.
Like, because we need to fix this ice.
Yep.
The fact that you folks already had a SKU in your system for a plug-and-play thing ready to go.
We sure did.
This is the kind of thing where, like, if I go to the depot, they're not going to have that.
No, not
and
at
that's
all.
a little unfair to the depot because they're like, again, a kind of homeowner grade thing. But like, most people around here are doing like a radon pump with a bunch of PVC pipe and just like blowing bubbles in the water, which is all fine and good if you're like really handy, if you're like really good at what you do, or if you want to pay out the nose for electricity perpetually. So like I said, Nick, I need a system that's plug and play, super simple. I need something that has a thermostat on it because Eversource in Connecticut, very expensive. I hear you have the same thing with whatever your equivalent is.
Yeah.
We need something that's temperature sensitive. We need a smart system that a homeowner can see, understand, and potentially even like, you know, basic service if need be.
Absolutely.
And you had it already in your system.
We did.
Like, that's amazing. That's the kind of thing that other vendors aren't bringing to the table. Yeah. And boy, it showed up really fast.
It did. We ended up ordering the Casco de-icer for you, and I mean, that was like a, you know, 2-day turnaround time from order to you know, getting into the back of your truck, and it worked out really well. And, you know, that's opportunities, you know, that decking companies don't always use, but a lot of the dock builders, and you do a little bit of combo of both, you know, especially being on Block Island and being just in Rhode Island in general, because I mean, there's a lot of coastline here, and, you know, a lot of opportunities come up for dock building, or just like the extreme winter we had where it just, you know, pushing pylons out of the silt and just, you know, making it just destroying people's docks. And
absolutely.
So, you know, we're here to help, and we want to make sure that we're helping you, you know, grow your business. And, you know, our presence here is, you know, always going to be for contractors and for, you know, growing companies and people in the area.
Yeah, you know, it's not often that vendors make the rank of what we call trade partners.
Yeah.
So usually that's like our funky word for like the people that we work with. Like, you basically become that to this point now because like you're super reachable, super fast turnaround.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I need.
Yeah.
We live in a very dynamic environment that is constantly having things come up.
Absolutely.
The fact that, you know I can get a response is awesome.
Yeah.
part of why I don't use a lot of other vendors anymore is because I will wait days for a response.
That's
Especially if I'm
unfortunate.
on the island, that's like days plus additional days worth of logistics.
Mhm.
Like, that doesn't fly.
No, it doesn't. Especially trying to get your job done, move to the next job. Just it's perpetual motion. If you stop, then you're left behind almost.
Absolutely.
And that's a reason why we are moving. We've jumped in with OC and Fortress, and trying to look forward for our company and your industry and our industry as a whole to make sure that we aren't left behind, and we are the leading company in this area and honestly around the country to help all of our customers.
Yeah, I mean, you folks are having Fortress master classes not only here yesterday but all over. I mean, you got a schedule of them going on.
Yeah, we do. We have 6
like
of them.
the fact that you offer that kind of a resource is awesome.
Yeah.
It shows your commitment to elevating the bar.
Yep.
I mean, that Fortress product is amazing.
It really is.
Like,
it really is.
And I am very excited to see what the performance characteristics are out on the island there, because I hear they use it in the Caribbean, I hear they use it in California. Like, that's a serious cool data point, right?
Mm-hmm.
The island that I work on is especially tough, but for different reasons. Like, every climate's tough, right?
Yeah.
Let's get that data point too. That's going to be really exciperting.
That'd be exceptional.
The fact that you can run those spans
I know.
leads to artistic possibilities that are just completely unachievable with other materials.
100%. And it's great that you can, and they were saying that you can combine it with OC if you had to, if you wanted to do like a, if you wanted those spans, but you wanted joists that were OC, just, what a design, that would be really great.
Yeah, anyone that really knows their craft, knows the families of products that are available within their area, and knows how to combine them.
Yeah.
Like, we do all sorts of weird hybrid stuff because that is sometimes demanded.
Absolutely.
And that familiarity with the product and their performance characteristics is really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. And I in reality, there's pressure treated lumber is, has its goods and bads, but the next step to decking is, that's the next generation. This is the next generation, and we want to make sure that we're on board with, teams like you and, making sure we're doing the best we can.
Yeah, I mean, it's still, I don't know what the market share is at PT. It's big. Like, it's still, it's still common, right? Like, you have to stock it. And on my own house, like, I'm a guy who, most of my wood's recycled, but, if I'm buying that stuff, yeah, I'm probably going to buy the cheap thing because my aesthetic tastes are probably going to change.
Yeah.
My family's growing. Temporary is not so much of a concern for me. But if I'm building artisan spaces for people whose houses are worth many, many, many more times than all of the land that I live on, I want to make sure I can deliver for that because that's what they expect.
Yeah. And they won't ever have to worry about it ever again, with the warranties and with the longevity of the product. So, they can give it to their grandchildren. They can not worry about it if they do have a rental that are, you have a lot of people jumping up and down on that deck, and, you're still going to get that great warranty, and, product's going to be around for a long time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Hayward, I just want to give you a real big thanks. I really appreciate you coming down here and give us this deck talk. I mean, your story and the information you gave, and you being a great customer to us, and our opportunities for the future, products that are out there for the future. Just want to thank everyone coming down and seeing Deck Talk here at Decks and Docks at 222 Exeter Road in North Kingstown, Rhode Island. If you want to check us out on our website, decks-docks.com. Hayward, thank you very much. Really appreciate you
It's an
down
absolute
here.
privilege. Thank you so much.
Thank you much.
Come by. It's a fantastic place.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it.